Hello, I'm Dr. Steven Niedermeyer here with North Texas Orthopedics, and today we're going to talk about pumpkin carving safety. Before we get started talking about your pumpkin carving utensils, I know a lot of people out there have kind of the same little pack that you bought at the grocery store 2 or 3 years ago. I would say that when you're carving a pumpkin, anything that's dull or that's a couple of years old is probably not the best. When you have a dull knife or a dull pumpkin carving kit, that probably leaves you more prone to injuring yourself. You have to use a lot more force with those dull knives, those knives that aren't very sharp. So this year, go out, do yourself a favor, spend the extra little bit of money, get a new pumpkin carving set, and then before you get started with your kids, going over the safety of using sharp objects, making sure that everything's age appropriate for your younger ones. You can do stickers on pumpkins, you can paint pumpkins, you don't necessarily have to carve, or when they're helping, you can help them by cutting, or they can be more of the scooping out the insides and getting the seeds ready to roast in the oven sort of thing. But making sure you go over safety with the kids before you get started. And then always recommend enjoying an adult Halloween beverage after the fact. Once the pumpkin carving has been done, the knives are cleaned and put away. To get started, a couple of other tips you can do. I'm just going to use these surgical gloves, but there are gloves that you can get at Tractor Supply Company, Home Depot, Lowe's, some cooking stores that are Kevlar-based gloves or chainmail gloves that are good at stopping a sharp injury and can help you be a little bit safer. When you're going to cut the top off of your pumpkin, always remember to angle your blade a little bit so that the top sits down on top and doesn't fall through, kind of that manhole cover theory. So when you start your pumpkin top, you want to have one hand stabilizing your pumpkin, and you always want to cut away from your hand. You go in until you feel the knife kind of give. That means you're through that first sort of layer of the pumpkin. And then if you find that it's hard to get your knife out, do a few wiggles. Don't pull the knife. Wiggle it to get it nice and freed up, and then it comes out of the pumpkin a little bit easier. So we'll do that again. Coming through the pumpkin, you feel it give right there, and don't pull super hard unless your knife is super sharp like our knives. You can give it a wiggle, get it started, and pull slowly and small wiggles. So again, small wiggles. Once you get a nice kind of start there, I would go to one of your serrated knives. It's a little bit easier if you want to go in and out and sort of carve the top of the pumpkin like this. And then when you get to a place you need to turn, go ahead and do that technique where you push in all the way through, small little wiggles, and pull out. So we'll get the rest of this top off. One of the things always to have at the home is a first aid kit. If something were to happen and you do cut yourself, having a first aid kit nearby, we always recommend. And then we have an urgent care open from Monday through Friday here at the Grapevine office. If anything should happen while you're carving your pumpkin, don't hesitate to come into our office and see one of our urgent care providers, and they can help take care of you. So nice and slow. That's the other thing about using sharp objects. You don't want to be in a rush or going too quickly. Nice and slow. Steady wins the race sort of thing, especially when you're working around sharp objects. And one of the other things you can do is, like I said, always kind of keep your hand away from the knife. You can always use the stem of the pumpkin as kind of a nice joystick. Once you start to get most of the way around your lid, that stem holding technique gets a little dicey because you can pull this right off the top of your pumpkin. Another safe thing is you can always use stencils. Stencils are pretty good and well designed and are able to space out your shapes and make your shapes big. One of the other things to think about is you want your shapes or your designs to be bigger rather than smaller. It's really difficult to carve small shapes into a pumpkin and keep that controlled, especially with the size knives that you have in your normal kitchen knife set. So always err on the size of bigger shapes. Let's do a quick little like triangle face, I guess. So Start by making 2 eyes. Again, the technique is to go in all the way, making sure your hand is not on the other side of the blade. And this is one of the things you can do with your kids. Kind of have their hand on the blade as you move it through, so that way it's nice and controlled. If your hands, once you get the top of the pumpkin, start to get really slimy, don't hesitate to have a terry cloth towel or something where you can wipe off the slime and make sure that your pumpkin's not slippery, because if your stable hand gets slippery, it can slip into the way of your knife and it can cause an injury. A couple of injuries that we see most commonly with knife injuries, not just with pumpkins, but you have friends and family who have been cutting bagels or slicing avocados, who have told you about injuries they've had. In the finger, especially on the front side of the finger, you have 2 tendons to each of the 4 fingers here and 1 tendon to your thumb. Each finger has a set of nerves and arteries on each side of the thumb, so when you stab into a finger or into the palm of the hand, those are the most common injuries that we see, those tendons, those nerves, those arteries. If you are suspicious that you have injured a tendon or a nerve or an artery, the best thing to do when you injure yourself is get that first aid kit out, hold some pressure. Don't hold pressure so much with a tissue or a paper towel. Those, the blood can actually stick to the paper towel or the napkin, and once you pull off the paper towel or the napkin, it will pull that wound back open and the bleeding will start again. So if you're going to use a paper towel or napkin, make sure it's wet. That way when you pull it away from the wound, it doesn't pull that little skin edge open. The best thing to do is hold direct pressure with a towel, so an actual terry cloth towel or washcloth. That will be your best way to kind of stop the bleeding in that moment. Some of the other injuries that we see on the back of the hand, you also have tendons to your thumb. So you see how I'm moving through the mouth of the pumpkin here, kind of just little wiggles. You don't have to saw. Going back and forth, that's probably where you're at the most risk of coming out of the pumpkin, injuring your hand, or going all the way through. I've been having my hand kind of on the top of the pumpkin here, pushing through all the way into the pumpkin. You're going to hit your finger from the inside. So nice little wiggles, slow and steady, as we've said the whole time. That'll get you a good way across. There are tendons on the back of the hand. You have most of your veins are on the back of the hand. The arteries to your fingers are on the front. So if you do have a knife injury to the back of the hand, it's likely a vein that's bleeding, and that will stop with some direct pressure. And then, as I said before, don't hesitate to call our office. Come on into our urgent care if you're at all concerned, and one of our providers will be happy to see you if you injure yourself this holiday season. We're almost done here. This is probably the fastest pumpkin I've ever carved. See if we can get that little mouth out. There we go. That ain't that bad. Cool things to do with the seeds. I always dry them out and make kind of a salt, pepper, cumin, chili powder sort of roasted pumpkin seeds. Those are always good to have around the house during the holiday season. Or not, I guess the holiday season, but the Halloween season. And put some candles in there, or like little electric votives, and oh, he's got a little vomit coming out. There we go. Happy Halloween, guys.